Hey guys, it's that time again. It's time to back the blockchain. So today we're talking about the NIOX X token. Some people call it the NEOX token, but it's by Autonio Foundation. And their recent announcement sparked my interest and many for me to make this video. Personally, I've been invested in the company since the beginning of 2021, but the move to Cardano, I can't say that I knew was inevitable, but was exceptionally great news and one that I wanted to go deeper with. So today I prepared a pretty extensive presentation about where they are, where they're going, and how they're going to get there. I'll go over the outline in just a minute. So let's get going. So I've got the outline up here first. I think the best thing to do. Number one, I don't want to waste anyone's time. I'm going to also put this on my blog. So there's quite a bit of text on this particular presentation. This I would classify more as a deep dive. I will be doing follow-up videos. I've just been following this trend currently with all the DEXs and DEXs particularly moving to Cardano or building on Cardano. But I will be doing demos as these projects are releasing new versions or updates. So stay tuned for that. But first off, I'll tuck this outline away after I mention this really quickly. But I'm going to be going over number zero, which I like to call it, is just why you should watch this video, which I'll go to the slide in just a moment. But what we're going to be covering today is basically how this project started. So a lot of times, or most of the time right now with Cardano, of course, most projects are not active projects. We will have hundreds of them in the next several months. But this project is an existing project. It's on Ethereum. So we'll talk more about that and its plans to port to Cardano. So we're going to talk about how it started, where they are now, where they're going, and quite a bit of things, obviously, what they're doing right now. So this is really the meat of the presentation is kind of where they're going. And we'll talk a bit about tokenomics and where to buy. So let me go ahead and tuck this away. And I'm going to switch to dark mode. We'll have a little more fun here. So what we're going to be doing is really diving into these aspects. But I think before I do that, I just want to ask you a question. So this is not a video about price, but I think it's really important to put some perspective on this with price at the moment. So at the time that I'm making this video, NIOX is around 15 cents token. So which has experienced quite a bit of growth since the beginning of this year. But what would you think if you were purchasing or making an investment in a project that was at the intersection of AI, DeFi, and multi-chain interoperability? So I think we all would say that that's a pretty inexpensive investment to get started. Now, of course, all three of these areas, AI, DeFi, and multi-chain interoperability, is not all these areas are trillion-dollar industries right now, but they're all on their way. And obviously, if you added up a lot of the chains, in the ecosystem of just blockchains in general, certainly we can get to $1 trillion. But when you start looking at DeFi as a whole and AI, I'll go into more detail about this. But I think what's interesting about this, and this is where we'll get into this video, is just take deeper dive of strategy and just overall why I'm looking at projects like this, why I think they'll succeed, and why I think a lot of other projects won't. So let's keep going. So I think first off, let's just show a little bit of social proof. So Autonio made this announcement at the end of August, and very quickly IOHK, development arm, tech arm behind Cardano, retweeted this. So certainly a great little shot in the arm there for the team to get that little bit of attaboy. So just wanted to show you that something to be aware of, that as I'm a big advocate of the Cardano ecosystem, having projects porting over is going to be the key. Now, new innovation, new projects are great, but the network effect and the quick growth that Cardano can achieve, I think, is going to be realized through several Ethereum projects and other projects, mostly Ethereum, moving over to Cardano using the ERC20 converter, etc. So real quick, this is where I talk more about just strategy and really how I think, because when I invest in projects, I look more at this bigger picture, or where the puck is going, as Wayne Gretzky likes to say. So the AI, the machine learning, cyber revolution is, in many accounts, a fourth industrial revolution. So, of course, the first was steam, the second was electricity, third was digital, and the fourth I believe is just in some cases people would say it's a continuation of digital, but really it's a fourth, and it's focused around accumulation of all of this data and using that in a AI machine learning way. So I think this is how I look at projects. I think this is going to be not a wow, this is cool, this makes this project different. I think in the next coming years, say by 2025, this is going to be a mandatory part of any crypto project or any project that's going to succeed. So I'm very much interested in these AI driven projects for that exact reason. And same thing when it comes to DeFi. I mean, I think this is the future of finance. So when you look at DeFi, you have 18 billion locked as of September 2020. As of September 2021, making this video, we have approximately 96 billion locked, which is incredible growth. Now, with that said, of course, DeFi locked, that does fluctuate. So check DeFi Pulse. It's a really cool dashboard that shows you what's going on there. But I think what I'm getting to next is one just area of caution that I think that I'm watching, and that I think other people should be watching too, is that there's a lot of this money is moving to safer vetted projects for some reason. Now, some of it's people would classify as FUD. I don't particularly fall in that camp. I think there certainly is FUD related to some of these things, but regulation is pushing demand for DEXs. So I think that's what certainly is a great use case for why DEXs are going to be amazing. But on the other side of the coin, as you'll see in a minute, I do believe that this is also fueling a consolidation factor within DeFi. So I don't think that regulation is going to kill DeFi. I do think regulation is going to further push the envelope for DeFi to be better and not necessarily more centralized, but just it's going to push more people to using these DeFi protocols like the Autonio Foundation. So this is exactly why I wanted to point this out, because I think these are the kind of things I think that we should all look at. The other reason I think you should watch this video is looking at, and I'll go into more on these next slides, but crypto and DeFi, it's highly volatile. So another use case for why projects with AI and why projects that have smart aspects to it are going to be the future, because at the end of the day, and I think this is, some people will disagree with this, but trading bots and AI, they really are more predictable and consistent with returns. And I know there's a few exceptions to the rule, but if you're really looking to be a trader, which that's not how I classify myself, I'm definitely more an investor and more of a hodler of the right projects. So I'm definitely not spread all over the place. I like to focus on a small amount of projects that I know are going to be, I could go to sleep at night and or go to sleep for 10 years for that matter, and know that this project's still going to be around. But I do think it's important to know, for traders or for someone that's looking to just make the most money or use liquidity, farming or use liquidity mining in that aspect with the assets they already have, it's important, if you want to do that, it's easy to get wrecked. So that's why I think that this project, the NIOX token in particular, is solving a lot of these problems, as I'll get into. So the other problem that we have is DEXs. It seems like not very long ago that we were just having our first DEX and it was all, an exciting opportunity. But now when you look at these slides, you'll see that many DEXs are literally just Uniswap copy and paste. And when you look at these slides, it's overwhelming. So Autonio is right here, on the Ethereum slide, which has an incredible number of projects. And actually, anyone that will look into these slides, they're not even completely updated across the board either. So there's even more projects that's even being represented here, but this is a great place a great perspective of what's going on in the DeFi business, and why I think it's even more important to see the trends I just pointed out, as well as be aware that not everything is going to go 10x, 50x, 100x, particularly in the DeFi space, as exciting as it sounds with DEXs. So I'll just shoot through these pretty quickly. Of course, Binance has a massive ecosystem, so can't even really make most of these out. This slide's probably too small, but it's really just for perspective of what's going on here with DEXs, and how important it is that each of these DEXs have a specific use case and are unique and they are solving a real problem. They're not a place to swap tokens, because that's really not very great, when you really look at where the puck is going here. So of course, with Cardano, pretty small ecosystem right now. Autonio is not even on here. So to my point, not all these, and some of these have been considered, a little bit sketchy projects even, that probably need to be removed. So, realistically, we are moving very fast, that these things aren't even being updated, super quick. Of course, up and coming projects like Solana, growing. We have Polygon. So the point of this is to say that there's a lot of opportunity to win in this space, but there's also a much higher opportunity to lose. So let me explain a little bit what I mean of how the opportunity looks for NIOX, or NIOX. So with NIOX, you have, they are at a 15 million market cap right now. So when you look at some of these competitors like Uniswap, 13.8 billion, we have, and these are in the top 100 tokens. We have Sushi Swap, we have Pancake Swap. So we have 5.4 billion, we have 2.3 billion, and you can see with their token price 1160, we have $25 and $25, so, or $26. So obviously the opportunity and the growth opportunity from a market cap perspective and a token price correlation is extremely opportunistic for a DEX that actually gets it right and does it right. So let's just real quick take a pause. I know you already know the drill, but please leave a comment. As I mentioned, this is a deep dive and it's an evolving project. And I do want to know your questions. I'm going to be posting updates, as I mentioned, but I think it's important that I will answer all comments on this video. So feel free to do that. As I mentioned before, I am an investor in NIOX, and this is not financial advice. Again, I'm not dissecting price, but please do your own research. I'm doing a lot of your research for you right here, but please do your own as well. So let's quickly get into how the project got started, when it got started. So the project started in 2018, and they've always had this focus on trading tools and DeFi infrastructure. And what I also like is they're formed as a DAO. And the DAO is a very active component of their ecosystem already. And what I also like is that they are an existing project. So because I'm such a big fan of Cardano, it just really is exciting for me to watch a project that I already personally use, some of their tools, and see that project moving over to Cardano, but also see what they've learned and how they've evolved thus far. So that obviously one of the best ways to predict the future is look at the past. And I've followed this project, I've been invested in the project, and I'm very happy with the team as well as what they're doing. So the DAO is a very active part of this group, and they're helping drive innovation. They're helping driving the right ecosystem tokenomics for the project and for its holders. So I think that's really an important thing to know. One, interesting accomplishment as an early project, they built BitShares DEX. They were involved in that project and building it. So which was one of the first DEXs ever built. And one thing that as other holders of this token would know is there's really a deep partnership among the NIOX token and Singularity DAO and Singularity Net. So I believe the most well-known and by far the best project in AI from when it comes to just overall AI ecosystem and artificial intelligence, artificial general intelligence, Singularity Net is going to be a beast. And what's really exciting is this team from NIOX was incubated within the Singularity Net's team since in 2019. So they've since moved on into their own project, but they've maintained a deep partnership with both of these projects. So I think that's really important to know. And also an important note, and as well as a tweet here from Ben Gertzel himself, just confirming that, that this is a really sharp team, and they've built a very useful ecosystem and have been very useful on the Singularity DAO's ecosystem as well. And Ben Gertzel is also now on their advisory board, which is an exciting accomplishment. So the team, as I mentioned, they started building in 2017. They launched in 2018. Ali Rahman, the founder, this is just an interesting quote from him, but I think their mission, their goals, the way that they conduct their team and their growth process and the way they think and kind of strategize to enter the market, I think is one of a kind. And the fact that they focus heavily on privacy, profitability, and user experience, I think is just really a nice trifecta of where they're going here. So where are they now? So as I mentioned, I use the platform. The solutions they have currently are amazing. They're a little separated. So part of what you'll hear in a moment is just how they're bringing these together. But I think what I plan on doing as part of this presentation, of course, is just telling you a little bit about these. If you've already invested in the ecosystem and using it, this somewhat is repetitive. However, being a new user in this ecosystem, I think you're going to find this really helpful. So what I like is their mantra of democratize trading, enhancing the DeFi liquidity and helping traders harness the power of the crowd. So when you democratize trading and crowdsource liquidity, to me, I think that's just really a well thought out mission, because I think at the end of the day, trading, and we're going to get into this more, but I think we see this more and more, the manipulation of markets. And of course, some of it is probably people blowing smoke, and it's not necessarily true, but it is in fact happening. And I think using the power of the crowd, using that peer-to-peer network of, we've seen endless use cases where the peer-to-peer network, the crowdsource world, whatever it may be, whether it's outside of crypto like Airbnb or inside crypto, we see that this crowdsource positioning is really the wave of the future. So I think this is, Wall Street Bets is a great example of the way that they've been, handling shorts and defending shorts of GameStop and other things. So I think this is an interesting step in the right direction for these new projects. So currently, their ecosystem looks like this. So there's basically 4 buckets. So they have a multi-chain decentralized exchange. So a standard DEX, so to speak. There are some really interesting features, and their new 2.0, which I'll get into in a moment, is exceptional. They have a liquidity mining protocol, which they have campaigns on there. It's the market maker platform, and they have campaigns on there called Swarm. So I'll get into that, like a swarm of bees. So again, going back to the way of crowdsourcing. And the algo trading terminal is tied into their market maker platform currently, which I'll get into. And they're using decentralized AI, this AI machine learning network, to really optimize the entire ecosystem. And I'll get into more of that as we go too. So before we do that, let's talk a little bit about strategic partnerships and some of the things that they're doing. So this is a really interesting who's who of partnerships, even for an early stage company here. As I mentioned already, Singularity DAO and Singularity Net. But Crypto.com, they have several campaigns running on there now. They're also working on some L2s like Polygon, which has obviously improved considerable amounts of the Ethereum platform if that bridge is used effectively. And Elrond, of course, is another great project. So I'll get into more of where some of these fit in, but they do have an interesting partnership platform, and I think this is really key to surviving, again, as I'll get into the multi-chain discussions. For any of these DEXs surviving, there's going to be a key indicator here. So where are they going? So the next thing that they're doing is they're upgrading their stack. So the 4 things I talked about earlier, they're right here again, but they're moving all of these things into a 2.0 version, which I've studied extensively and very excited about the next steps for this project. So let's look into the first thing. So the first thing that I wanted to highlight is really, currently I'm using their system, and they have all these products available, but they're somewhat separate in some ways. They're still on the same domain, but they're on different, they're not all tied into the same dashboard. So what you can expect now with this 2.0 version, and all of these things, I'll be getting into specific dates here in a moment, but these are all within the next 12 months. Most of these things with the dashboard and stuff are by the end of the year. And mostly through Q1 of 2022. So with this, you're going to be able to go through all the tools that I'll explain in a moment and be able to have an integrated ecosystem that you can work with. What's also going to improve for everybody is that when they have all this under one dashboard, the AI-led learnings become a little more involved in each piece of this, as well as each user's experience. So I think that's, of course, at the end of the day, it's about getting rewards and getting returns on our investment. So let's first, before we talk about the next part of it, which is a Smart DEX 2.0, I think it's important that we kind of point out again what I showed earlier with the hundreds of DEXs that are out there right now. There are many shortcomings of the version 1 DEXs. So the most well-known is, of course, Uniswap. So what's coming with what's currently already somewhat involved in the NIOX suite is an IMM version, which is an intelligent market maker versus a automated market maker, which is an AMM, which really pretty much every DEX is in that AMM design right now. But as many of us are learning, if you've been involved in these protocols and use them in any capacity, you realize that there are specific downfalls. Many of them will advertise really large returns, but there's certainly a lot of aspects that are not necessarily optimal. So let's talk about that real quick. So this slide that I have visible is really just showing the difference of what NIOX is bringing to the world versus with their IMM versus the AMM. So first thing is fees, of course, and I'll get into these a little bit more detail in these bullets below. But instead of having fixed fees for everything, there's a flexible fee based on that use case, which makes it much more optimal for charging the right fit fees versus just a flat fee. There's also no stop loss on most AMMs right now. So being able to have a stop loss is really mission critical if you're going to be trading or doing any kind of mining. So this is an important thing as well. And just as an aside, if you're fairly new in crypto and you're watching this, some of these things, I'm not going into all the deep details of automated market maker stuff, in the sense of what is it, and I will get into some basics of liquidity and why that's important in a moment. But the other thing is arbitrage exploits, just people taking advantage of the system. Of course, you can't always shut that down or impermanent loss down, but those are big factors, in my opinion, of the negatives of DEXs currently right now. Also, the other thing too is in a bull market, DEXs work really well with liquidity mining and fees and really everything's kind of like, okay, well, it's up only, no big deal. I'm making all this great returns. But in general, most of these DEXs lose massive liquidity. They lose massive functionality in any kind of bear market, particularly a bear market that's sustained longer term. Like, something a month or so is not going to necessarily collapse something, but that will happen if there's a longer term bear cycle, which is historically going to happen. So just highlighting some of the things I just showed on the slide here is the first generations of the AMMs. They succeeded with certain things, and it's not to be put down in the sense of they've succeeded significantly in moving version 1 and being ready for version 2. So the network effect that they've succeeded with cannot be argued. But of course they've suffered from high slippage, trades failing, charging fees even though inventories, the inventory's not there, or the trade fails. You have massive swings in price adjustments, and as I mentioned, certain issues with fees, and they're prone to impermanent losses or even just complete failure in a bad market. So, what is also happening is they have a lot of fragmentation. So, when you have these 100+ DEXs that I showed you in the slides at the beginning, it's quite overwhelming. You look at that and think, wow, okay, so if you're locked into one platform, you have no ability to get liquidity from another platform or take use of that. So this is what I believe when I talked earlier at the very beginning about the multi-trillion-dollar opportunity with this project, is that The lack of interoperability is going to be massive. That is going to be probably one of the most important things, aside from having smart AI driven, machine learning type of solutions. Interoperability is going to be the future. So just because I'm not in the believer that Ethereum's going to win or Cardano's going to kill them and all that, I really believe there are going to be a large number of blockchains. Now, I don't think that there are going to be hundreds of blockchains necessarily that have, I think this is going to be a typical 80-20. Maybe there's, 5 to 10 blockchains that have 80% of the business. But at the end of the day, I don't necessarily, I think a lot of the blockchains that are doing well right now or up and comers, will have a piece in the market. But what's happening is the interoperability aspect is going to be one of the most important things to solve. So this is what I'm going to get into in a minute, but I think this is where having a protocol that's able to handle the issues I just mentioned above, as well as close the loopholes that we have in our current market, are going to be the key, but then also open the door to this multi-asset, multi-interoperability, multi-chain interoperability. So what does the next generation look like? So it's really all about an IMM, not an AMM. And because liquidity is a central concern, as I mentioned in the other slide, it's going to be the next step of this is not about how much better can I make Cardano, although I'm really into that, but it's really about how do I get all of these different networks to talk to each other from one DEX, one blockchain, one DEX to another. So this is a problem that the NIOX team is solving. So they are currently on Ethereum, as we talked about. They already have a bridge to Polygon. So when I use their products now, their bridge to Polygon is I think quite unique and nice and not supercharged with gas fees. So that's actually a nice setup. I think Polygon will win as an L2. I mean, I know they can position themselves as a layer 1 protocol as well, but I really find that's going to be a successful piece of their business as well. Conflux, which is an excellent blockchain as well, is also in their liquidity interoperability network, and now soon to be Cardano. So we're looking at 4 different chains that are coming into their system. So this aggregation, as I mentioned here, it's really about getting each of these chains sustainable and profitable and bringing liquidity across these chains. And what's happened to this point is that everybody's tried to do the opposite. So they tried to build liquidity on a chain first and then across to a different chain and then say, okay, well, let's just try to connect them somehow. And every time they do that, they immediately fail. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but I think my own opinion is that in general, they just lose a network effect and there's no synergy among that liquidity. So what they've done, the Autonio team, is they've done the reverse. So they're going to each of these protocols and they're not trying to connect them at this point. They're just they're building organically liquidity on those platforms so that they're able to easily plug one into the other because they've already succeeded on that platform. Others have just taken the shortcut by trying to say, oh, we're going to open up a protocol on all these platforms and we're going to try to cross liquidity. But when you have no liquidity or very little on any of these platforms, connecting them is useless. So Autonio's approach to this, I think, is genius. And it's obvious, from a business standpoint, but they're doing the hard work and then connecting them. They're not taking the shortcut and, approach. And I think that's something to their credit. So let's get into the smart DEX. This platform, this is like I mentioned, their regular DEX, so they have their swap here, trade, pool, farm. This particular screenshot is of their V1 platform. I've used this, like I mentioned, for several months now, farming NIOX tokens. So that's what this campaign is here. Those are paused currently. You can still swap on there and trade, but to do a liquidity, a farming aspect, that's going to be paused until they have this available in a few months. So just wanted to give you some screenshots to give you an idea of what this looks like. And again, I can demo these, and I plan to for anyone that wants to see them. It's going to be exciting to do that for the 2.0 version. But let's talk about what to expect in the 2.0 version. First of all, like with any DEXs, they're always trying to improve their functionality. So Balancer is a well-known uh, DEX that focuses on, kind of a lot of the things that Uniswap didn't necessarily get right. And that's, instead of having just two pairs, you have multiple pairs, you have flexible fees. There's a lot of composability opportunities, and you're also able to use intelligent market making, as I mentioned earlier. And a lot of these are going to be just repetitive of explaining some of the benefits I was mentioning and strategies of this. So what is coming from this is all this liquidity on this DEX. They're going to be able to build on each of these chains with this DEX so that they now have that interoperability, and they're able to use multiple protocols and connect them. The other part of it is, of course, they're able to combine the trading faster and smarter, and this is where the AI comes in as well. And I think this is important because not only are the AI things going to help you make more money, but they're also going to guard you and your portfolio and help manage your risk level. Because I think that's one of the biggest issues is that with liquidity mining or trading or any opportunity to kind of parlay more of your assets into a greater return, we all have different risk levels. And I think that's, everyone looks at AI or these AI agents in a lot of cases like, oh, I could just, oh, this is great. Like, it's just going to know more and I just make more money. And that is the root of it. But I think at the end of the day, some people are more conservative. Some people are different life cycle of being a holder. People have a different idea of trading. So I think this is an important aspect that they know that the users of their platform are all different, and they know from your user what you're doing as a user. They're able to actually adjust that to your benefit as well. So I'm going to move on to the next part. I mean, I think this is an important aspect, of course. Before I do that, is that aside from understanding everything on chain and kind of in the ecosystem, they're also doing learnings through social media sentiment. They're doing sentiment analysis throughout the website, throughout the web, Web3. They are able to take all these data points and aggregate them by also their partnerships with order-based exchanges. So obviously they're getting tons of data from their partnerships, from order-based exchanges, order book type of places. They have the on-chain data as well as all the sentiment analysis they're doing through all these third-party ecosystems. So it's really mind-blowing where this is going. And as I mentioned before, if you're a copy-paste DEX or you're going to try to compete just based on fees or a fancy name or a good logo, you're really not going to make it, not for very long. So the other thing I think that's really amazing for these are the smart pools. So this is an intelligent risk-based way to invest. So these smart pools that are going to be right on the DEX 2.0 are going to allow all the users to use this, obviously this intelligent base analysis to join these pools and even have different use cases for, again, weigh your risk. Like, how much money do you want to make? How much risk do you want to take? What fees are you willing to pay? And also, what is your end game? Like, are you looking to bootstrap pools? Are you looking to, as it mentions here, like they're looking to have a sophisticated breed of investment pools. So if it's smart contract controlled, then you're able, really, the sky's the limit. You can write any amount of steps into that smart contract. So whether you wanted to raise funds for a business, for a charity, you wanted a multi-asset pool, as it mentions here, or you wanted to have, some kind of smart treasury management system, these pools could be joined by multiple users, and you're democratizing it, you're crowdsourcing it, and then you also can have a shared vision of where you want, what you're raising money for, or in particular, just a single asset, like you're just trying to, increase the value of your own assets, which is the typical use case. So release dates here, Q4 2021 and Q1 2022. So Q4 is going to be, as I'll get into in a moment, is going to be or Ethereum and Polygon, because they're already on those networks. Q1 is going to be for Cardano, so be on the lookout for that. I'll continue to give you guys updates. The next stack is the Autonomaker. So this is basically their premium trading and market making ecosystem. Again, is going to be tied into the new 2.0 dashboard. But what's coming with the new 2.0 is that users will have access to more than 5 new algorithmic trading strategies to improve profit making potential. So what these look like is this screenshot here is from the version 1 of the platform. But you basically, and there are, as I mentioned here, there's a how-to documentation, because some of this does require a little bit of just reading into it. It's really user-friendly, but certainly reading the documentation is important to get started. But they're using their own AI approach to back and forward test, of course, these trading algorithms that they've set up. So they have exchanges set up with Crypto.com, with Binance, and I'll show you in a moment some of the campaigns that are running. But basically, you can set this up and trade a pair, which I'll show you some screenshots on that as well. But you take the API keys from KuCoin, Gate, from Binance, or from Crypto.com. Now, unfortunately, the campaigns that are running currently when I'm making this video, Crypto.com, I do have a Crypto.com account for the app, but the exchange is difficult because I'm in the US to get that to work. So, unfortunately, what I'm looking forward to is some additional campaigns that either Crypto.com is able to bring people on their exchange from the US, or that some additional campaigns are going to be offered for the US. But you're going to grab your API keys. You're going to make your settings, set your order sizes, and all of these trading bots are able to work automatically while you sleep, and they are learning real time and applying these to your end goal here. So really exciting stuff. As I mentioned, the documentation's here. This is just a quick slide that just talks a little bit about setting it up, and I won't spend too much time on this. Again, it's in their Gitbook profile. So let's talk next about inside the Maker 2.0 platform. They have the Swarm 2.0 campaigns. And this is really, if you think about how a DEX works, you're typically, you're adding liquidity first, and then you're doing farming. For example, if you're going to farm a specific pair or a token. In this case, this is somewhat similar, but what they're doing with the Maker 2.0 is they're bolting on this AI DEX strategy to order book type exchanges. So as I mentioned already, some of the usual suspects like Crypto.com and Binance, they're able to take those very centralized, in some cases are decentralized, some of their partners, and bolt on this intelligent design and crowdsourcing and this liquidity mining profile by taking what they call swarm, is as a swarm of bees or a swarm of people. Again, the crowdsourcing idea, I love the name swarm, to bring these people together, able to work together within a certain pair to achieve a better return. So the crypto projects, the current campaigns they're running right now, they have a MATIC USD campaign. They have ETH USD because they're on there currently. They have a DOT campaign that's ended. Last month, they actually had an ADA USDA or USDT one, which is really cool that they're running on Crypto.com. So they're running several, and obviously as they make their move to the Cardano ecosystem, we'll see a lot more on here and probably a lot more exchanges. So here's just a few screenshots of just returns, trading pairs, what kind of volume was generated, how long these campaigns are running. Just thought those would be helpful for you to take a quick look at. So what they're solving as part of this liquidity mining process is they're helping balance the goals of these liquidity buyers and sellers. And I've mentioned this a few times already, and of course, throughout all of their solutions, it's all has an AI machine learning aspect to it. So they do this to help, obviously, as I'll get to in a moment, to minimize risk, maximize returns, and also squash as much tampering or manipulation as possible. So I already mentioned this too, that they're bolting this on to order-based exchanges, so they're able to provide these levels of liquidity to these exchanges that would not be able to do this. So they're essentially converting these exchanges into a IMM, it's the automated market maker model. So instead of having like Crypto.com is able to function a little bit like a Uniswap, just as an example everyone would understand, by using this swarm design. So this, again, and that's why I have a lot of text in this, because there's a lot to dig into here. And I will go into, as soon as a beta is available to demo the 2.0 versions, I will do a walkthrough of how to use these things specifically, because I know some of these things get a little heady as we go through this. But lastly, they're defeating the market manipulation. So I think we all know that there's a lot of tampering that goes on at the lower level assets. So assets that have small market caps, have small price points. It's a little harder, and we know it still happens with Bitcoin and Ethereum with very, very large scale investors, or Elon Musk tweets, that kind of thing. But manipulation at the lower level is a very big problem. So this is something that this platform and protocol is working diligently with as well, because the more this is happening more and more, at least I'm experiencing that, being involved in crypto on a daily basis. So they are doing this through significant changes. So the way that they're determining rewards, they're not just doing this to like most liquidity mining protocols and campaigns. They just have a certain amount of uptime that you're into that campaign. They just reward you regardless. What they're doing here is they're using metrics that are very specifically incentivized based on maintaining, as they have very key words here, healthy and consistent levels of liquidity, not just for gaming the system, for just having a specific amount of uptime when it's convenient for you to make money, not for the pool. So that's important to know. Also helps obviously reduce that monopolization side of things by using crowdsourcing versus single entities. And finally, just looking at some other example, or just specific examples of what happens is manipulation happens in many ways, as we know, but for smaller assets or smaller price assets, smaller market caps, traders will very commonly band together and artificially inflate those volumes by buying and selling assets among themselves. So this will help evolve from that issue and remove that issue. Nothing ever happens with entirety, but really with this in mind, they're going to see a significant improvement around a lot of the things that I think a lot of us take issue with that are part of using DEXs and liquidity mining currently. So and this leads perfectly into the last part of this, is just how Swarm furthers the goal of DeFi. So Swarm is again, just really about the people. I think the easiest way to put it, it's, we all know that DeFi is the future and that eventually it will replace banks. So having this crowdsourcing approach, as I mentioned before, it is going to ultimately win out. It's going to have some headwinds, and projects like this are going to be the ones that are going to break through to ultimately this being the standard. Again, their marketplace approach, focusing on campaigns that are getting people that, even if they don't have a large amount of liquidity themselves, they're able to band together in a swarm approach and create a balanced risk profile, a balanced reward profile, so that everybody wins. So lastly, in this capacity, how do you benefit crypto projects in general? So we just talked about how it benefits DeFi and like users, but helping this help crypto projects in general, because at the end of the day, we have over 10,000 tokens right now. Many of them are complete garbage. So we need to obviously, aside from that being an obvious issue, we need a balance of traders being able to buy without massive amount of slippage or divergence in prices or manipulation. And we need token issuers to obviously have the comfort that these exchanges and that all of these DEXs are transacting efficiently. Because if you've looked at any of these things, and I do this, there are a significant number of exchanges, centralized and decentralized, and DEXs that will have very significant price deviations among the same token. And this is where manipulation can be taken to the next level. So this is where this project and what they're bringing to the table with their platform really changes the game with all of these issues. So I think we covered all of these things here. Like I mentioned, a lot of this is getting posted on the blog. The Swarm is going to be available starting late October, early November 2021. Again, I will demo this. As we close out, staking I had here at the end, mainly because we all know and love staking. What's exciting about this is staking is coming to Cardano, and it's coming to native Cardano Wallet integration. And staking to this point with NIOX has been a little bit more of a if you're not in a DAO component with them, as you'll see in a moment, that was not necessarily staking wasn't really an option. So the 2.0 version, I think, is exceptionally well thought out. And what they're doing here is simple. Is with most staking protocols, you get rewarded for every token. From the very first token you put in there, there's no minimum, you get rewarded. And of course, your rewards are going to be relative to that and to what you've staked, but they want to make sure that there's not a cost of doing this and that you're getting rewarded regardless of what you're staking with them. So they're going to, as part of that, they've restructured a lot of their tokenomics, which I'll talk about in a moment, and then we'll be done. But they're running this protocol, which I love because working with direct-to-consumer companies as well as professional service companies and setting up these types of marketing things and some of my day job stuff, the way Autonio runs their staking and the way they're running their tokenomics is like a subscription in a way, or it is. So they're offering you more access to their AI tools, to the platform, to all those exciting things I just explained to you based on how many NIOX tokens you have and how much you're staking. So that's what this goes through, because you're able to share in the tools, in some cases for free. You're able to share in rewards and revenues within their platform. And, it's really one of those things where you're getting rewarded significantly and based on a tier for how much you're staking and how long you're staking. So this is just a quick screenshot that the team shared. They have the standard, advanced, the DAO, and the DAO plus. This is not real easy to read, but I'm going to explain this just below here anyway. So standard is 0 to 50K NIOX tokens, of course, premium, DAO, and DAO plus. So the way this works, just getting into the specifics of it, is if you have 0 to 50, or basically 1 to 50, because you can't have 0, but free access to the basic functionalities, and you're able to use their trading volume based rebate based on their fees. So again, flexible fees. They're rewarding some fee, and your fees are going to be lower in some cases in these tiers. It could be a little higher in others. Fees overall have been really dynamically set to be fair for everyone, regardless of what level you're playing at. They're also giving rewards at a 1x here for standard. Advanced, they're going to jump everything up a bit. So they're giving you everything in the original version, and they have some additional savings or rebates based on fees. They're giving you a 1.25x multiplier on your staked tokens, and also some farming rewards, which I've enjoyed so far using their platform. The DAO, so if you want to participate in the direction of the project, 150K to 300 is going to get you that. And again, I'm posting this on the blog, so I'm not going to dig into all these points. DAO Plus is, of course, everything in the DAO, and then some additional things of some additional rebate discounts, some additional exclusivity stuff with regard to their team, even some kind of one-on-one counseling and kind of one-on-one trading consultations. So this 2.0 version of staking is actually coming quite soon. So it's going to be September to early October. They are working diligently on that right now at the time of shooting this video. And as we get into just kind of this timeline, that leads perfectly into this slide and where they're going. With this announcement to Cardano, they have a significant amount on their plate. Their team's working hard. They are launching quite a bit through Q1 of 2022, which is why I have this slide up here. And I have this broken down here in text, but essentially some things I wanted to point out was the first thing they're doing is obviously creating a Cardano or Ethereum to Cardano bridge so that they're able to bridge over and port over NIOX to Cardano, which is quite exciting. This V2 launch of Polygon Ethereum, as I mentioned earlier, is happening in Q4. So that's interesting because that will also help them to have the right deployment and testing in place to run Plutus contracts, which will be coming up next. So the NIOX staking campaign will be on Cardano soon. I believe that will probably be late Q4. Don't have an exact time frame on that. Of course, they're going to be very active within our ecosystem and working with various partners and campaigns and initiatives to grow this project. Now, in the medium term, They will be integrating, as I mentioned before, into the Cardano Wallet, which is I'm really excited about. I think anyone that's a big advocate of Cardano and using Cardano, holds ADA, multi-asset wallets, is something we're looking forward to, as well as projects coming to Cardano that were on other ecosystems and having them in our Cardano wallets. So this is exciting. Smart pools, again, is another thing that I'm really excited about. That will be probably sometime into Q4, Q1, based on which platform they're launching on. But that's quite exciting. As I mentioned already, Cardano is coming to the ecosystem fully with its smart DEX in Q1 of 2022. So you'll be able to do all of the things I mentioned in the 2.0 version, as well as have all the AI functionality. In that point, this will be a one-stop shop for investors. It's going to reward higher tier stakers, and the Maker 2.0 is right on the backside of this as well, for anyone that's more interested in the trading services and using AI to have better performance. So let's get into tokenomics. Overall, the NIOX has a 300 million token, so it's deflationary. The current market cap, as I mentioned, is 15 million. I already went over most of these things here because the way that they're structuring their tokenomics, and they've restructured as of June 2021, is really to provide better user access to the platform and incentivize users based on how many tokens they're holding. And they're doing this to create that sustainable, circular, value-based tokenomics ecosystem. And as any of us have studied these projects, incentives, rewards, and being sustainable and having a circular life cycle is key to any of these projects surviving long term. So that is that update there. This is just a screenshot from their 2021 June update, which I'll share in the notes as well, which talks about their tokenomics and just kind of high level schematic of that. This is a screenshot of how they reconfigured some of their wallets based on all the new things they're doing with the tokenomics, staking, etc., and the DAO. And lastly, where to buy. So right now, the Smart DEX, which is their V1 platform, this is where I buy NIOX currently. So I either will fund it in an on-ramp another place, or trade values, USDC or USDT, and I'll swap it. Generally, that's what I'm doing here to swap. Of course, you can trade as well. If you have tokens that you're looking to move out of into NIOX, you could certainly use your Smart DEX to trade as well. These other ones, Ascend is not available in the US. Of course, if you've used Uniswap or already using that, that's a good one to look into. So let's close out here. So this is a fairly long breakdown here, but I appreciate you staying around, and I think you've realized and hopefully I've conveyed this fairly well. Again, it's a lot to unpack. It will be on the blog. But this team, I'm a huge fan of the project, I'm a huge fan of the team, and they have been working tirelessly for this year, and they will be through Q1 of next year for sure, to get these 2.0 versions of their platform together. Really looking forward to more updates from their team, and looking forward to your feedback. So go ahead and leave a comment below. Let me know what I missed, what questions you have, and we'll see you on the other side. Thanks.